Welcome. Welcome back to CryptosRUs. I am George. We're all George. So, it's the start of a new week. Happy Monday. So, today let's talk about what's going on this coming week. Okay, what to expect. And we got to talk about what happened yesterday when Bitcoin had its highest weekly close ever in history. Yeah, that's right. So what does that mean? Is that a signal for bigger moves ahead? Let's talk about that as well. All right, let's do it, guys. Let's do it. Welcome. Look at where we are. We're starting out with the day at 1025. Which is lower than yesterday. But yesterday was definitely very, very exciting. We were up to 107. We were $2,000 off from our all-time high for Bitcoin. But more importantly, we did something that we have never, ever done before. And that is we closed at the highest price ever on a weekly close in Bitcoin's history. Not even when Bitcoin broke its all-time high earlier last year or this year. I don't know if it's December or January. It could have been last year, this year, whatever. Like 6 months ago, we didn't have a weekly high we didn't have a weekly close that high. So it's pretty significant. But why did we come down? Why couldn't we hold? Well, I'll get to that right now. You can see that the U.S. market is opening up in the red. Not super deep red, however, in the red. And what brought us down? What got us in the red in the first place? And what brought Bitcoin down? Well, shortly afterwards, after Bitcoin hit to 107, it seemed like all was good, that we were on our way back to all-time high and everything was good until boom, this came out yesterday, like afternoon nighttime for those of us in the US. It was reported that Moody's is going to downgrade the US credit rating, and this is an agency has been around for over 100 years, and they have finally decided that, hey, we have, as a country, have way too much debt. The deficit keeps on going up, and they decided to cut our credit rating from the highest level, AAA, down to A1. No, AA1, one notch down, which is still very good, but it's not the best anymore. And this caused things to come down. It disrupted things a little bit. People do not like this. No one ever wants to think that the United States can ever default on its debts. No one thinks that will ever happen, and no one wants to. Obviously, no one within the administration wants to portray that either. So this is what kind of started the weakness, I guess, from yesterday. But right now, there's absolutely no worry that, hey, the U.S. is going to default on any obligations that we have. Scott Bassett also says that this Moody's downgrade is a lagging indicator. Obviously, we had this debt problem for a long time, but they're trying to right the ship, so to speak. Okay, so it's a lagging indicator, kind of like death crosses on a chart. Yes, it shows a lot of bad activity, but a lot of times after a death cross, you have a sudden spike upwards because it's a lagging indicator. At least that's what he's trying to say. But those of us in Bitcoin, or in Bitcoin, knows that this is why Bitcoin was created in the first place. Bitcoin was created after 2008 bubble or the financial crash because a group of people or one person named Satoshi decided that enough was enough, that the irresponsible spending and debt eventually is going to crush the US dollar and the United States. However, that hasn't happened yet, but we see that irresponsibility and overprinting and inflation has never stopped, and it keeps on going, right? So this all relates. Even though right now we have the ability to always print more money, we always have the ability to borrow more money with the issuance of bonds, right? Eventually, though, there will be so much debt that we may not be able to anymore. Okay, we may not be able to print any more money because it would just cause too much inflation, or we may not be able to borrow any more money because no one wants to buy our bonds anymore. So it's a vicious cycle. It's a vicious cycle that many recognize. Many very smart people on Wall Street have recognized this over the years and have stated as much. And that's why they're doing something about it. They either put their money into gold or they put it into Bitcoin now. Okay, that is why you see such a big push into Bitcoin, why you see so many billionaires and companies and banks and countries now turning to Bitcoin. This is the reason, because people are starting to understand that, hey, this may never change. And it's not just with the US. I'm talking about the US right now. It's not just with the US. Every country on the planet basically has this deficit that keeps on growing and it never stops. It just keeps on going and going and going. And then you have all these central banks that are trying to apply monetary policy, trying to control inflation and trying to reduce the spending, but it never, ever works. It will continue forever. And that is why those of us that have decided to opt out and decide to opt into Bitcoin have been winning. And that is why Bitcoin is where it is now and will continue to go further upwards. It is also the reason why, like I said, all these big institutions, companies, countries are loading up on Bitcoin. So if you look at ETFs, this is a big telling story. How much that flows in every single day or every single week. Last week, with exception of one day, because that day BlackRock did not buy, but every other day last week, hundreds of millions of Bitcoin were bought and has gone into the Bitcoin ETFs. Mostly, though, just into BlackRock's ETF. BlackRock has this appetite for Bitcoin, right? Larry Fink is one of those people I was just mentioning. He now understands, and he wants it all. He has the ability to basically dominate the market. Not a good thing, but he understands, and that's why he keeps on accumulating more and more and more and more, or at least his company does. Okay, and every single day you seem to hear about a new company besides the usual companies. Here's another one that was announced late last week, that this Basel medical group is kicking off with $1 billion with a B, not a million. They're kicking off with $1 billion acquisition move, and that is into Bitcoin. Another publicly traded company entering Bitcoin. Every single week, you're hearing about a new company buying hundreds of millions or billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. And again, this is going to add up. There's only so many Bitcoin out there. There's not an infinite amount, and you can't just print more like fiat, right? So this is adding up. There's only so many floating around in the OTC market or the spot market, and we get more and more of that getting taken every single day and every single week, and it's not going to stop. And the usual players like Sailor continues to buy another 765 million. Now he holds 576,230 Bitcoin for 40 billion. He acquired it at $40 billion, roughly 69,000 average. So obviously he is still way into profit, but he is not going to stop. The mini Microstrategy, Metaplanet, is now not so mini anymore. They keep on acquiring. They just bought, 1,000 Bitcoin for $100 million. Not a billion, but still. Now they're making purchases, extremely large purchases now. You know, I still remember the days when they announced they purchased like 5 Bitcoin or 10 Bitcoin or 20 Bitcoin or 50 Bitcoin. Now they have upped their purchases to 1,000 Bitcoin at a time. We've kind of gotten used to these such large numbers from Strategy. Now even others like Metaplanet, just like they are increasing their buys constantly. I keep covering them because it's like every week now they're buying. It's not even every month or every quarter. It's like every single week. You combine with these two companies plus the ETFs. If you just combine what they're doing week over week over week, we're talking about at least like $1 billion worth of Bitcoin being bought every single week. Take a second to think about that. There's only so much to go around, right? This is the reason why we are at our current level. This is the reason why many people think that this next leg up is right around the corner. And yesterday's weekly close, okay, is a precursor to what's coming. $106,637, the highest weekly close ever in Bitcoin's history. So it's not like going back to something. This is the highest weekly close ever recorded. And if it wasn't for the Moody's downgrade, I honestly think we would probably be opening at like 109 or 110. There was nothing stopping yesterday. We had a huge momentum spike towards, the afternoon when I was recording my Sunday walk video. And then things started coming down because of this whole Moody's thing, right? Again, it scares some people off. Some funds, traders decide to sell, and they are still selling a little bit now. But the market will compensate. We will get past this, right? And we will get back there once again. But this is a pretty significant deal. Again, something that has never happened before. We're making a lot of these we're entering new territories, let's say. We have shattered a lot of records that we have never, ever, ever seen before in this cycle. And that's telling you something, that the adoption and the maturity and, of course, the buying and everything that comes with it is increasing. So the saying that history doesn't always repeat, it tends to rhyme. That's exactly right. We are definitely rhyming in the same movement as previous cycles, but things are not repeating in a good way because we keep shattering more and more records. It's really good. Really, really good. Now, two last things I want to show you guys. Number one, I don't know who this James Wynn is, and it could be that he's just trolling and pretending like he's the one that threw this 40X open, or it could be him, but a lot of people on X are talking about it. So either James or someone else threw a 40X long on Bitcoin, put down about 12.5 million of collateral. So overall, this position size is worth about $500 million. He set this at 103 and 3,000, 103, 400. Let's just round up, right? So we're not actually that far off, but he is definitely down. So either he sees something, or he's gonna get wrecked. It's one of the two. A 40x leverage on Bitcoin. Well, he's not gonna get wrecked until we go down to 97,900, which we haven't seen in a long time. But never say never, right? We have been there before. It could definitely happen. But I think there's something in the air. A lot of techno analysis, a lot of metrics, everything is pointing that we are in a bullish bias. We're bullish movement upwards, and something good is right around the corner, right? And lastly, I saw this. Okay, you guys know this guy, the famous real estate guy, Ryan Seart, I think, Seart. He sells real estate to all the millionaires and billionaires around the world. This was roughly 10 years ago when some crazy Bitcoin investors and billionaires around the world buy this was some real estate. And he offered, and it wasn't like Max Kaiser or anything. I don't know who this person is, but this person offered 50,000 Bitcoin. Listen to this.
I'm looking at about 50,000 Bitcoins.
Bitcoin?
In Bitcoin. That puts it in at around 13 and change.
But you want to pay in Bitcoin?
Yeah.
You sent us an offer in Bitcoin? I'll be totally honest with you, Ryan. That's not even the biggest problem.
Okay.
This offer's $1 million below ask.
Right.
Had that person taken it and held that Bitcoin, it would be worth $5 billion today, which would be the most expensive apartment by far anywhere in the world. Had that person accepted, right? But the person that had offered 50,000 Bitcoin, well, he's $5 billion richer, assuming that he didn't spend it. I don't know who this person is. If you guys recognize it, maybe you can chime in. But the fact that he had 50,000 Bitcoins 10 years ago, right, was still impressive. It was like $13 million back in the day. So he must have been one of the early OGs that was mining it. That's kind of crazy. But my point to this is hodling and DCing wins with Bitcoin, right? You may not think so. You may think, because we live in a moment, we look at the charts every single day and you're like, man, we're just not going anywhere. But just take a second and think where we were just a year ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and you'll realize how much Bitcoin has been winning and will continue to win in the next 3, 5, 10 years. Where will Bitcoin be in 10 years? Maybe we'll hear a lot more stories about people that are spending it now, thinking this is the top, and in 10 years, when Bitcoin is at $5, $10 million each, it'll sound and look just as ridiculous as this video. The sailor thinks in 10 years, Bitcoin will be at $13 million each. He thinks by 2035, Bitcoin will be at $13 million each. That is why he's accumulating so hard right now. He does not care about current fluctuations because he knows the future is going to be much better than right now. I still don't know who that person is. All right. That's pretty much it. Let's see. The U.S. market is improving. Seems like Wall Street is just, accepting the fact that we got our credit rating cut. Microstrategy, if you look at, is actually up today. We're turning around. Coinbase hardly down, Robinhood hardly down. And as for Bitcoin, we are coming back up a little bit, 103, 103.1. So that's good. We are not that far off from our all-time high. We're really not. Alts are still lagging. That's right. But, you know, that just happens sometimes. All right, let's do some Q&A. All right. George, now that Denver is out, who do you got? I think I have to root for the Knicks now. They're just a scrappy team, so I'm rooting for them. I have nothing against Wolves, but I don't like how they beat the Lakers. And I certainly do not like OKC. I do not want to see OKC win. I'd much rather see Wolves. So I guess at this point, it'll probably be Wolves versus Knicks. If the Knicks could beat the Pacers. And I still don't get why Pacers are good. Kamek, do you think there's any hope for Polygon at this point? There's always hope. There's always hope, but I've been hearing over the years not good things about Polygon, so I'm not surprised by the lack of movement. So yeah, things are turning around. If the U.S. market turns green, which looks like it could be, that will probably turn Bitcoin right around. We could be right around 104, 105 again, and then we'll try to retest that 106. So, those of you guys that watch my last week's video and my yesterday Sunday walk video, ChatGPT was actually right. It did say that Bitcoin was go ahead to be between like 107 and 109 sometime Sunday, because it thought that things were looking good, low liquidity, there was a good chance of it. And it did. It just didn't hold because of this whole Moody's thing. Again, I think if we didn't have this Moody's credit rating cut come out yesterday, like right around that time, we could be looking at an all-time high right now. It just came out like right at the worst moment to ruin the momentum. But I think that's a one for one for ChatGPT. It actually made that prediction on Thursday night. What do you think about the Ronin network? I've seen a lot of games close since they moved to Ronin. Ronin's like, they've been around for a while. Obviously started by, what is it? I'm trying to blank who they're by. I forgot who Ronin was started by. But anyways, they've been around for a while. Was it Bored Apes or Ape Chain? No, it's not Ape Chain. who's Ronin by? Shoot, I'm drawing a blank. It was a gaming company. But anyways, they suffered a big hack back in the day, right? They only had 8 validators. It was hacked, the biggest hack in crypto history, $600 million worth. So they got set back a lot by it. And I know people that lost a lot of money because of it. But outside of that, I've been hearing that they've been, they've recovered. They're onboarding. They're making a big push, not to go beyond games. And they're moving forward. So, so it's good. That's what I've been hearing. That they're, they moved past their old issues and they're moving forward. Did you hear about Meta looking to acquire Ripple? I did not hear that, but I don't know if they can afford Ripple, man. Ripple is, first of all, XRP is worth XRP is worth 136 billion. Ripple themselves hold like half of that. So Ripple has at least $60+ billion worth of XRP. So whatever Meta's offering has to be 60+ billion plus whatever's Ripple's their cash pile is. They just offered 20 billion to buy Circle. So you figure they gotta at least have about that much cash on hand. So Meta would probably have to offer like $100 billion to buy Ripple. They probably could. They probably have enough cash to do so, but will the shareholders agree to that? I don't think so. And they would get so much government scrutiny. Well, maybe not. Maybe not with the new administration. With the previous administration, this is why they had to cancel all their crypto plans, because of too much scrutiny. But maybe this going forward, maybe not. Luke, Meta certainly can. They have enormous amount of cash pile. They don't have to give it all in cash. They could give stocks too. They have more than enough stocks to give too. Most of these buyouts are not settled in cash. It's mostly like through stocks. So they could if they wanted to, but the chance of it, I think, is very, very low. Shareholders would not agree to that. But Mark probably has all the votes, the board votes anyway. So if he really wanted to push it through, he could. A lot of these CEOs have all the board votes, so they could get anything approved, and they can't be voted out either. It would just tank the stock. Steven asks, am I going to organize a meetup at a Bitcoin conference? Probably not. In the past, I had meetups, these like small little gatherings. But they're a lot of work, and these days I tend to like my freedom, and also like I always have like these luncheons and dinners with these other people that are inviting me. It's just hard to schedule. So I'm probably not. But I will be walking the conference like all 3 days. So if you're at the conference, most likely you'll bump into me. That's what I do. I go to the conference, just walk around. View on Ando Finance. Good RWA play. New all-time high for Solana. Yes. You just have to have patience. I think this year's Bitcoin conference is going to be, it's probably going to be the biggest ever in history. Last year's was okay. The attendance was down, I think. I don't know because of the environment or Nashville, but it was down. And the previous one before that in Miami was super down because that was during crypto winter. But now it is certainly not. It's in Vegas. Everyone loves Vegas. And Bitcoin's above 100K. Could be going to all-time high by the time the conference hits. So it's going to be jam-packed, I think. One of these days, I gotta bump into Sailor and just say hi, shake his hand or something. I got whale passes, so I'll be hanging out in the whale area. I haven't ever seen him like hang out in there. But you know, maybe one of these days I'll bump into him. MetaMask 0x. Tell me why crypto is better than stocks. Well, the fact that your username is MetaMask means that you're already in crypto. You're not a newbie. So I don't know why you're asking me that. You should already know the answer. Where will be the best entry? There is no best entry. The best entry is now. You just don't know where it's going to be tomorrow or next week or next month. You can't predict like where it's gonna fall to. Like Sam is asking, oh, should I be looking at 92K to buy? You could be waiting for that forever and never see that again. So if you want to buy Bitcoin, just do it now and just realize it's a long-term investment. George, if you could ask one question Michael Saylor, what would you ask him? I don't actually have any questions to ask him. I'll probably ask him what he thinks about XRP. I actually don't know what to ask him. If I see him, I'll thank him for all that he's doing, and then I'll ask him what he thinks about XRP. I don't think Trump is going this year. He went last year very briefly. He spoke on stage, although he didn't really say a lot last year. But this year, I don't think he plans on going. I know Vance is going. But yeah. Ask Saylor what would be his second choice in crypto if he had to choose. That's too hard. He's not going to answer that, because if I was in his shoes, I wouldn't answer that either. That's just putting him in an awkward position. So, yeah, he's not going to answer that. I don't think he's going to say ETH. He hates ETH. He has like badmouthed ETH for a long time. He just kind of stopped recently. Saylor already announced his plans. I think he's going to stop DCAing when Bitcoin hits $13 million. That's what he said. So that's when I'm assuming he thinks that that's where Bitcoin's top will be, or the top is close to that. He already said in interviews that's when he planned on stopping DCAing. Man, we're almost back in the green. Ooh, very, very close. Dow is only -4. The fact that Microstrategy is green, Robinhood is green, Coinbase is about to turn green. It looks like today is going to turn into a green day, which means that we may see a huge spike up for Bitcoin back to 104, 105 by this afternoon. Things are turning around. This whole Moody's thing is just like, it's just like a fake out, it seems like. Anything I can share about Riot platforms? Why do you ask? Are you just a stockholder, or do you just want to know like if they're different than other mining companies? Me personally, I would never invest in mining companies. There are just too many of them, a lot of competition. They are very, very affected by Bitcoin's price because of their profitability. So I would never hold mining company stock. So close. I have no idea about the NFTs on the Sui, man. And Luke, I have no idea what Bitcoin civil war you're talking about. I have no clue. I have not heard about any new civil wars going on with Bitcoin. Last question, George. Do you still believe the 4-year cycle ending this fall? No, I don't. I do not. I believe the 4-year cycle may be over permanently, as for like crypto winter and stuff like that. But obviously, we're always going to have a 4-year cycle because of the halving event. But this notion of going to crypto winter for about 2 years, 2.5 years, going down 80%, I think that is over going forward. So, yep. All right, guys. We are recovering. You know, we had a setback because of this Moody's downgrade, but it seems like people are just accepting it, move forward, and we may be having a big recovery later today, guys. Maybe not even later today, maybe just like within a few hours. We had the biggest close ever in Bitcoin's history that happened yesterday. This is significant. It signals bigger moves ahead. So, stay strong, my friends. Smash the like. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Stay tuned for my video tonight. If we do somehow break all-time high by tonight, I'll stream tonight. But who knows? I'll put out a good video for you guys, and otherwise I'll see you guys tomorrow. Usual time as always, 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. All right, have a good one, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.